okay with me.
Okay.
I'm getting perturbed.
Okay, everyone say hi to Nick. Hi, Nick! Hopefully he'll watch this. Slides. Okay, guys. I should have brought some water with me.
This is your house.
Yeah. I didn't plan nearly enough.
No, you just grab a glass of water.
True. I'll be back in a minute.
that's what fun was. Yeah.
This water. See, this water's been here since I think last time you guys were here.
We're getting new water.
Yeah, that's kind of stale, but
Good enough.
Okay, go, just put in new water. It takes me a minute.
The amoeba wouldn't have lasted.
Still.
Okay. So, for today's lecture, we are going to be going over a couple things we did wrong last time.
Wrong?
We did nothing wrong. He's wrong.
Me and you did everything.
No, I mean, yeah, right.
Actually, no. You did one thing wrong, Dennis.
No, I did everything right.
Yeah.
What about me? Is it more than one?
Actually,
Is that why you
well,
know?
in the double thing, we both did wrong. We were supposed to. We can deep strike whenever we want. We
Yeah.
have to wait for turn 2. So he lied to us.
I did lie. And then
That's
list
what
building.
you did wrong.
Yeah, that's what he
Yeah.
That's true. That's what he did wrong.
It's we.
No.
I kinda
It's we the people. That's what it says in the Canadian Constitution. It doesn't.
I'm not.
I didn't actually ever include that. We'll go over that externally. What we did wrong last time in list building, as I said. So, things we did wrong. Nick's entire army should have benefited from his army rule, not just one unit that he selected, which, that's pretty scary. Dennis, you shouldn't have been able to command point reroll the +2 invulnerable save that you had on your guy. That shouldn't have been allowed.
Am I even using that?
No.
Oh.
No, I made this one before you played Sisters. Kobe, and Dennis, but not Dennis anymore,
That should be Evan.
should have been able to. I don't have any deep strikers. Actually, I do,
That should
but
have been,
I forgot.
Evan told Kobe.
I think made another mistake.
I did. I'm sorry.
It's not my name.
Oh
I'm sorry. I'm awful with names, especially ones that sound really similar to other
no!
ones.
Surprisingly, he spelled my name, but he always likes to put 2 N's.
Okay, Dinas. My bikes had too large of a base size because they weren't printed at the time. And dedicated transports, which Dennis does have to have a unit inside or they're immediately destroyed at the start of battle. Okay, Nick said he wanted a definition, so there's 2 types. Okay, we're going to talk about 2 types of points today. Victory points and points. Points are a value tied to a unit's strength, right? And a list is a collection of units intended to be used in a game. Okay, so yeah, when list building, it's a lot easier than past editions. You don't have to deal with like fast attacks and heavy attacks and characters. It was a pain, believe me. Okay, points. Points are the core of what list building in Warhammer is. A point determines how strong or powerful a unit is. For example, the Onager Dunecrawler, very large, scary tank, 160 points. Whereas Zangor's little kind of gremlin guys on the sidelines, 65 points. Yeah, they can be used to represent damage, resiliency, speed, utility, and they can be spent on enhancements as well, which I'll cover in a minute. Point limit. In Warhammer, you tend to agree on a quote-unquote point limit, which is how large your army is, right? Standard Warhammer is played at 2,000 points, which is what the game's balanced around as well. Combat patrols are a little weird, but they're between 300 and 500 points. For today, we will be building our armies to 1,000 points, just to...
I think a true 40k match should be played with 40k points.
People do that, and there's special rules for that's called Armageddon, and you would literally need to probably take out everything in this room to play a 40,000 point.
I have a basement.
Go outside.
Go outside is creepy.
Man, Warhammer players never touch grass. This will roughly double or triple your army size. Okay, this is very important. The rule of 3. When building, your army can have duplicate units, especially like with common unit choices. It's It's almost essential to have duplicates. But you're only allowed to have 3 of the same type of unit.
I was thinking about having like 6,000 with a weakest unit, but I guess that doesn't work.
But if you're thinking of your weakest unit, which is probably Zangors, they have the battle line keyword, which the way your eyebrows raise, which means you can have up to 6 of them. So you could theoretically field 60 Zangors if you so desired. I won't print that for you, though.
I will not print that.
Okay, yeah, you can see 6 unit. You could include up to 6 units of Hearthstone Warriors as they have the battle line keyword. I need a pointer.
Average engineer uses a screwdriver as a pen.
This is still out from last night.
We'll just point at it.
No.
We knew where you were pointing.
Yeah. Yeah, as you can see, Hearthstone Warriors have the battle line keyword, which means in your army you could have up to 6 units of them, theoretically. Whereas the Seraphim Squad doesn't have the battle line keyword. So you can only include up to 3 units of them. Warlord. The one final thing that your army needs to have for list building is a Warlord. Which usually means you need to have at least 1 character model. The character keyword is considered your If you only have 1, it's your Warlord. If you have more, you choose. If you have a unit with the epic hero keyword, that must be your Warlord. You can have multiple epic heroes. I'm not sure how that works, but
You just choose. No?
yeah, I think you just choose between them. It's either they must be or they can't be. It's one of the two. I can't remember. Being the Warlord is negligible and doesn't do much. It's primarily a relic of past editions, right? There's some armies like the Tyranids Neurolictor or Death Leaper. You get a command point, I think, if you kill the enemy Warlord with it. And certain factions have certain abilities that it's not super important. Okay, building a good list. A very important thing. There's 2 kind of schools of thought when building a list in Warhammer. You can definitely go with a more moderate approach, or you can build a skew list, which is where.
I wonder what he's gonna do.
Skew list. Balance list take a general approach, have a balance of both larger, tougher, smaller, weaker. Skew lists go to either extreme, either only consisting of massive, tough units or flooding the board with like chaff, right? This is to make it so your enemies. This means if someone has a lot of like anti-tank weapons or a lot of anti-horde, your army will just get wrecked. But if your enemy only has a moderate amount, and you target those units, they just won't have enough stuff to deal with it. Skew list representations. Both of these are theoretically viable 2,000 point armies. I know a lot more about Imperial Knights than Tyranids, so I actually kind of built that one realistically. This one I just shoved a bunch of stuff in. But as you can see, 2,000 points, 7 models. 2,000 points, 94 models. And I could have min-maxed that a lot more for more guys.
Actually,
1995. I'm sorry. I rounded.
True.
I can only think in like numbers that have only like 1 digit and zeros.
It's a bad engineer habit.
That you're actually kind of encouraged to do that. Only to have up to 3 digits and zeros. So now we're going to talk about some of the roles within your army that certain units will fill. Despite what a lot of people think, this is probably one of the most important roles for units to be. One of the most important types of units to have in your army. These will be the ones that hold backline objectives, right? Score you points, complete secondary objectives, which I haven't told you about, right? They're often an easy way to tell if a unit's in this category if they have a sticky objective ability or an ability that synergizes with staying on objectives. Due to their frailty, they're often not, despite them having weapons, they're often never used. They're used simply to be something that can hold things. Because, low point cost, and here are two very good examples. Kobe's Zangors. Those are the Age of Sigmar ones, but they're the same thing. They have an ability that if you're on a objective marker in your command phase, you get more Cabal points, so you can cast more magic. And then Nyx Jackals have an ability, one of the sticky objective abilities I was talking about, right? Once they have controlled an objective once, you put a little token on it, and as long as no enemy units are on that objective, you still control it, which is really good for some armies, right? You can mobilize your forces more, but it leaves your backline a bit more exposed. Leader and character units. These guys are pretty simple as well. You all have at least one character unit in your army. They often attach to certain units, like Dennis, your Canoness, attached to your Battle Sisters. It sucks that Kobe's character didn't attach, but the Call would attach to the Hurricane Pioneers, or the Engineer would attach to the Skitarii Rangers. They often provide some form of buff, either would that be like rerolling dice, a keyword to their weapons, or just being really good at killing guys. Yeah, usually about medium point cost, right? Canoness provides full hit rerolls, so you can reroll all your dice when you're making hits, and then the Call gives lethal hits to all the weapons in its unit. Weapon platforms, they are often the main damage dealers. They often more expensive. They can do quite a punch. Elite infantry, vehicles or monsters. These units, lots of killing stuff. So here's a couple examples, right? I pulled up their weapon stat sheets just to kind of show you, right? Despite both of them being ranged, they're often very scary melee ones. In fact, the Terminators are very scary in melee, if you can get them in there.
I remember that.
Yeah. Very, very scary. I didn't include it because I forgot.
Destroyed Dennis. I forgot those guys. I would use every single one of those tags. You'd cry. Shit myself.
Okay, Dennis. Midfield, these are often another classification. These often used fast or have some mobility units that allows them to be up the board faster than other units. Whether they just have a really large movement range, they have a keyword such as like deep strike or infiltrate that lets them forward deploy, or they have an ability which lets them be more mobile than others. Additionally, they might not even be mobile. They might just be really hard to displace for their point cost. Right? A couple examples of this are the Hurricane Pioneers, with their outflanking Mag Rider's ability, allows them to be really anywhere on the map. Because at the end of your turn, at your opponent's end of your opponent's turn, you can take them off the board as long as they're close to the board edge, allowing you to move them around to either different objectives or to apply pressure where needed. What are you grimacing at?
Sounds disgusting.
I did it up to Nick. It's pretty funny.
Sounds terrible.
Just remove your entire army off the board.
Yeah, like
Put it somewhere else.
That's the only unit in the army that does that. And then Tactical Oblique for the Sorbius Raiders allows them, whenever an enemy model moves closer to them, to move either D6 inches or 6 inches if they're nearby a friendly battle line unit. Yeah. Oh, it was a lot worse when it was a stratagem and it was 9 inches. Okay, screening and confrontational infantry. Units that fall into these categories act as a stopgap a lot of the time between the enemy and your more valuable units, right? Accomplished in either killing the enemy or being durable enough for, and a lot always add a little tag to it that is durable for their points, right? That's something you need to keep in mind, is the point to value ratio. To prevent from advancing or being cheap enough to, despite their low durability and firepower, their roles to stand in the way of more valuable units. I didn't have an example for that, but something like Kobe's Zangors, right? Units can fulfill multiple roles, or Dennis, if you eventually end up fielding some more larger damage dealing things like some of your battle suits, right? Your basic sister infantry would serve as a not bad screening unit, right? Enhancements are upgrades you can give to models to give them certain abilities, whether that be more keywords, a new ability. Actually, I talk about that later. Yeah, these can be anything, a buff to their unit's weapons, such as a new keyword, a new ability, or more specific effects interacting with your army rule. They are around between 10 to 50 points. So, a couple of examples. A new ability one, Necromechanic from the Cybernetica cohort. Once per battle round, when a vehicle fails a save, you can set the damage that it would have taken from that save specifically to 0. Really good at combating like high damage weapons, right? Like if you've read the Votan's data sheet, one of their weapons have the Magna Rail gun, I think, has a like D3 plus 3 damage, right? And that's a really good way of hurting like tanks and such. But if there's a character model near it with that ability, it would deal 0 damage, which is always fun. Or something for Dennis, affecting armor roll, Adeptus Sororitas. When the spare is destroyed, you gain an additional D3 miracle dice. Or a buff to the unit's weapons. Add 1 strength and damage to the characteristics of psychic weapons attached to the bearer. Equipped. Okay. This really only affects both of you, actually, or maybe Kobe. It depends which army he wants to list build with. Choosing a detachment. This only applies to people who've had a codex, which Admech, Sisters, Necrons, but not Votan or Thousand Sons have received codexes yet. Yeah, you get to choose the detachment. This will determine several things, such as additional rules you get for your army, which stratagems and enhancements you have available, and you want to choose it depending on what your army's focused on. Today, you won't have nearly as much flexibility as I would like you to have, because I'm going to force you to use what you have, so you may be kind of forced into one or the other. I kind of was when I was building mine, but you guys can work around it. I'm sorry.
Min-maxer.
Some attachments are more general, making more lists. Hey. Then the amoebas are getting to me.
Huh. That's your like actual brain lobe of making it to your nostrils.
Oh.
Hey Evan.
Yes.
We're heading to town. Do you need anything?
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right.
Do any of you guys need anything?
No.
No. Okay.
Coke, candy,
There's-
cane. No Coke.
Okay. Oh.
Sorry, that was misleading.
Yeah. Yeah. Some detachments are more general, making it more their list building more flexible, but they won't have access to some more specific things that can really enhance certain aspects of the armory, right? So here's an example, right? The cohort Cybernetica is very vehicle focused. I know you guys won't be able to read most of that, but trust me. It doesn't have lots of buffs to infantry. I think pretty much all of their stratagems and enhancements have the word vehicle in there somewhere. I don't know if any of them don't have it. So yeah, you would want to focus on vehicle things like the Honor Gradoon, this is for Admech, so like the Honor Gradoon Crawler or the Castellan robots. Yeah. Another example on the flip side is the Skitarii Hunter cohort, which is very infantry focused, right? Making you able to field lots of chaff, like lots of low cost but highly mobile, quite durable things that can be around the board doing lots of very scary things. Weapon diversity. Making sure you have a variety of weapons to affect a variety of targets. Right? I was talking about this a bit earlier when we were talking about SKU lists. Making sure you can hit all enemy targets. So if they just happen to have a big tank, it just won't roll through you with you being unable to deal any damage to it, right? Or you having lots of, on the other side, having lots of anti-tank things, but not having enough volume fire to destroy lots of really cheap things because of how Warhammer's damage system works. Yeah, and some mid-level things too for taking out like mechanized infantry or other elite threats like bikes and such. Yeah, this is updated. So this is the army I'm going to be bringing when we play in 2 weeks' time.
What Oh boy.
Yeah. So, and I'll go through what they do and kind of walk you through mere reasoning, and then we'll take some time, and you guys will build lists. So, the first thing...
Why is they be totally skewed?
Yes?
I have another question. I've been thinking about who I want to make a list for. Another question for, well, determine that. What, is there a race or whatever that's just a bunch of creatures?
I'll need to think.
I'm a big fan of creatures.
I'll need to think on that for a minute. I think there is, but give me a minute. Depends what you define as creatures. We'll talk about this
Just
later.
like monsters.
Okay.
Or
I
something.
think it
Or like
might be
little
shit.
animals. I don't know.
Okay.
Something not human.
We'll
I think that's cool.
we'll discuss this in a minute. Okay. So the attachment choice. So I chose Rad Zone Cohort because it's a very generalist chapter, right? Or not chapter, but detachment. It has lots of overall good things, right? It doesn't, because of how my combat patrol was laid out.
Hold on. Sorry.
Yeah.
Keep going.
You know, RAD stands for radiation, Dennis. Very generalist. There's... Yeah, very
I see.
generalist thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, generalist. So now we'll just move through based off of how the tool we're going to be using categorizes things. No, I lied. So
That's not what this is.
okay, for characters, functions, and reasons for. I took a Tech Priest Dominus for the primary reason that it provides a durability buff that, in combination with recent changes to how Hazardous works, allows my Cataphrone Destroyers to live a failed Hazardous roll, which is really good. Because it was, it has Peerless Eradicator to grant sustained hits to the models in its unit, which is very strong. The Tech Priest Ingenseer was a required one, that was part of my combat patrol, but it provides a quite good durability buff to my Onager Doomcrawler. And it's equipped with Radial Suffusion, which is something that affects my rule. And then the Skitarii Marshal. It was to fill out some remaining points that I had in the list. I was building a list and I had like 40 points left. And that guy filled up like 30 of them. Increases consistency of backline as he's able to not only increase their damage slightly with full rerolls on hitting, but also allows them to become unbattle shocked for free once per game, which is great for scoring.
Whatever.
This is World War II.
What is this? World War... Okay.
I do my army.
That didn't exist.
My army's detachment ability is to bomb you, so all your soldiers will have PTSD by the time I'm done with them. Okay, and then I have a unit of Skitarii Rangers. 1, it's required. 2, they are great for backlines as they have a sticky objective ability. It's fine, I'll deal with it.
What is this?
I don't know.
It's a lamp. That's how I recorded the video that I recorded for you.
Okay.
Skitarii Rangers, they have a sticky objective ability which allows them to hold objectives even after they've left. So they can sticky an objective and then either move on to a different objective to sticky or do other actions such as providing some small supporting fire or completing secondary actions. Skitarii Vanguard, they act as a great screening unit and can move up the board quite well. They are probably one of the best midfield objective contesters in the game as they have an OC of 2 and they have a radius. Any enemies within 3 have -1 OC, which is really strong. Cataphrone Destroyers. Some of these were required, 3 of them were, but I decided to go all in and bump it up to a full squad size of 6. This makes them great at taking down elite infantry, and they're pretty good. Their plasma weapons will be able to punch through a lot of mid to high level threats, and they are equipped with flamethrowers to deal with more low level things. And then I have
What's their weakness then? Doesn't sound like they have any. Wait, what?
You're going through this. You're like, this is the best unit in the game.
No, they're kind of
Second best unit in the game.
they're kind of expensive. They're kind of expensive for what they do. Plasma has the normal plasma is kind of that they have is kind of bad, but when you supercharge, there's 1 in 6 chance that one of the models just dies, and you need to roll 4 dice, and if any of them are a 1, or let's say you roll all 4 of them are 1s, you lose 2/3 of your unit.
Okay, so like you're saying the biggest damage to themselves is themselves?
A lot of the time, yes. But they also have they're very poor in melee, as they're not a vehicle unit, so they can't shoot while in melee. So if you get them tied up in melee, they can't really do too much, right? They can always fall back, but you can't fall back and shoot unless you have a stratagem that lets you do that, which they don't.
Kobe, this is your time. Like, what the fuck? What am I looking at?
They're also a little on the squishy side, right? So if you can just pop out from behind a corner and obliterate them, they're also like quite expensive for points. They're not the most efficient unit, right? Like if you look at Custodes Guard, they are have almost a perfect stat line, having great combat, great melee, but they're also expensive for the points, right? A standard unit is probably your baseline troops is probably 150 points, which is a very expensive basic troop choice when other armies have it for 100 points. So it's always balanced out by their cost. If you look at them, what's their weakness? It's probably that they have a high cost, or they might just be broken. If those were breachers, it would be scary, because the breachers have good melee. And then the Sicarian infiltrators function as some forward deployment. They have the infiltrate ability, which means I can deploy them anywhere on the board that's more than 9 inches away from your deployment zone or your models.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that.
Oh no, it's slightly different from Deep Strike. With Deep Strike, you can deploy it on your enemy's deployment zone, not in. No, you can. You can deploy it in your enemy's deployment zone too.
As long as it's away from
enemies, yeah.
But infiltrators, you can't.
Yeah, infiltrators are also only done at the very start of the game. Deep Strike can happen whenever. Vehicles. Yeah. The Honor Grenadier Crawler, it provides some really good anti-tank fire, because I'm going to be swapping its war gear from its more generalist Icarus array to a more specialized neutron laser. And then the Sidonian Dragoon provides some good screening, as well as some okay melee. It's pretty durable, pretty fast, and good for harassing minority. No. Okay, and
What the?
I'll publish this, and here's my list in full so you can read everything. And so, here's the list building rules I'm going to be imposing outside of the normal ones. Your list must be under or equal to 1,000 points. You must use all the units from your combat patrol, and you must have at least one unit with the battle line keyword. I put that rule in there because when I was making this, I didn't know Zangors had battle line. They do, and I was going to force Kobe to at least take one unit of Rubric Marines if they didn't. Homework, painting. That's what we're going to do.
Rainbow.
If that's what you decide you want. So what you're going to need to do is look at some art online, find what color scheme you want, right? A good places to look are your faction's older codexes. They often have really good art. Or there's lots of painting tutorials online. I'm going to have to ask. I can do the printing resins kind of cheap, but I won't be buying your paints, I'm sorry to say. There's lots of good options, whether that be from the official Warhammer sources, such as comic readers, or there's lots of online paints that people say are better and cheaper. Probably are, but it'll be harder to follow along with official Warhammer tutorials. I implore you, you can go with one of the more official ones, right? Like, for example, for Thousand Suns, Kobe, they're pretty much entirely blue. That's kind of they're that kind of light teal, but light blue. But if you wanted to paint them red or neon pink, I implore you to paint as your heart desires.
Make your team like all neon pink and like purple.
Oh, my dice are like that color, so I probably could.
Yeah. But if you want to make your own color scheme, I implore you to. One of the most fun aspects of this hobby is like creating
Okay.
is like creating lore and having fun with your army. The end. Yeah, this was a much shorter one than previous ones. But lecture's not over, as I'm going to quickly show you the tool we're going to be using for today's session. It's called New Recruit, and it is a army building tool. It's really good, and it's free. So yeah, first thing you do is I have a bunch of lists that I've made. Don't look at them.
Oops, all robots.
That was my old army list, but it's 380 points worth of Castellan robots.
Ooh.
So yeah, the first thing you do is go to create list. You might need to first thing you need to do is when you're in this is select Warhammer 10th edition. You might need to press add game, add or remove. If it does, I'll help you with that. You go to create list, you find your army you want to play. I play, and then you can sort by what it is: Imperium, Chaos, or Xenos. So I play an Imperium army, and I play Adeptus Mechanicus. So we'll just name this test demo or whatever. You can set your point limit, so it will glow red. If you make sure you press add force or it won't work. You go to create list. Give it a minute. Then you'll be shown this screen.
Did you try Calidars?
No.
Did you try the game?
No.
We should play today.
Yeah.
Try what?
So
a new computer. It's like 100% better. Like genuinely like 100% better. Is it not good? Like it's just like how much would you be? Sorry, how much would you be doing this? We spent
a bit more than $1,000.
and that's completely future proof. Like he'll be good for.
But I did save a lot of things from my old computer. Power supply, case.
So, yeah, PSU case and hard
I
drive.
could save up to 1,000.
Because you're all have your case. I don't want to fuck with your hard drive. Actually, no, you still have your hard drive. But we'll just wipe it.
There's nothing bad on there. There's illegal stuff.
It's just the fact that it's hard to like make a new computer with like your existing hard drive. We found that out with him last night. And what else did you say? PSU, hard drive, case. You have a case.
I have a case. There's also a cooler looking one in my room.
Oh, okay.
That isn't mine. But
Or you
put
could
in there,
shard
so
it
now
up,
it's mine.
Kobe. You could shard it up.
That's disgusting.
I'll do what's that electrolyte? The submerged computers.
My dad was talking about that because they were planning on doing it at work with mineral water back when like computers were really big and really hot and not very efficient. But we'll talk about this in a minute.
That's really cool. Wait, I want to.
It's expensive
Sorry,
and very.
can we talk about that right now? I'm very curious.
Okay.
It's really
Mineral-
hard to do because the moment you get an impurity in it, it becomes able to move electricity and it drops itself.
Oh, I see.
Or it's mineral oil, not mineral water.
You could use water, but it would have to be very specific water.
Yeah, that's why they use mineral oil.
It's just mineral oil in the PC.
Yeah, you completely
submerged.
submerge your computer.
That's so odd.
It's like a fish tank, but with mineral oil.
So there's no cooling. It's just the mineral oil. That's just like
It just dissipates it so well.
really.
It is hard to do. You need it to be pretty sealed.
Because it is like you now have a fish tank on your desk.
It's cool though.
So that's all that cools it. Like you don't even need like a vent for the heat. Like
Just as
Water's a
long,
great heat sink.
just as long
I know
as
it's a heat sink, but eventually it's gonna retain that heat and getting.
For personal things like this, you're not running your computer 24/7. Like if you're a crypto miner,
Yeah.
you might have like a cooling station that circles the water like how fish tanks.
Yeah, like that.
Like you would-
have it, but you wouldn't need something inside of it, most likely.
Yeah.
That's so odd.
They use it for big server farms.
Yeah. Or like I would bet like NASA or anyone who has to do any really big calculations would just have huge server racks that just like, you've seen how nuclear fuel rods are
it
put,
looks like a nuclear fuel station.
and they circle it in there. Pretty cool. Back to list building. So the first things I'm going to recommend you turn off. This will change depending on your army, but unaligned forces, unaligned forces, and unaligned fortifications. You might not have access to Titans. Turn Legends off. You can keep Agents of the Imperium and Imperial Knights visible. This is for Imperial forces. You would have Chaos Knights if you're a Chaos faction, and I don't think you'd have anything if you, other than these ones, if you're playing a Xenos faction. In here, you can see they are, so first thing is, here is your detachment. It will show you a list of all of the ones you have available to you. Certain armies will only have one, right? But some armies like Adeptus Mechanicus will have 5 or 6, depending on which army you are.
They like them.
No, they hate AdMech.
There's 5 of them.
Yeah.
Some only have 1 of them. Some only have 1.
So, yeah, because they haven't got their codex yet.
Because they're stupid and stinky.
Yeah.
Like
Dennis, you barely have your codex. It's been out for like a week.
Yeah, and I still have it, so...
So you choose the one that you think would best work for your list.
Cool. Cool beans.
Then you can look over here, right? You have it's sorted into various categories with like epic heroes, character models, things that have the battle line keyword, because battle line are very important. Other infantry, mounted units, and vehicles, dedicated transports, and we're going to close to allied units for now. They're not, I wouldn't recommend, especially in your first list, including any allied units. They're more of specialty things that you can do if you want to have fun.
My mom's is special.
You are. You're a very cool guy. So, and then to view what they do, you can simply click on the eye, and it will give you a full breakdown of what they do. You have their characteristics, right? Their movement, toughness, save, wounds, leadership, and OC. You have their ranged weapons. You have their melee weapons. And then you have their various abilities, right? You have invuln saves, other abilities, rules specific to the unit, right? This is where like keywords fit in, right? So these guys have Scout 6, so they can move up to 6 inches at the start of the game for free. You have your army rule, right? For AdMech, it's Doctrine Imperatives. For Sisters Battle, it's Miracle Dice. For Necrons, it's Reanimation Protocols, Votan, Eyes of the Ancestor.
Sun, the magic.
Yeah. Then you have other weapons. A lot of units have, it's called war gear, right? There's multiple different types of weapons you can equip, right? For example, you could replace one of your galvanic rifles with a plasma caliber, right? It's pretty much better in all scenarios, but you can only have one in your unit. And then you can have an arc rifle and a transuranic arquebus. Sometimes this is a lot more thoughtful because you can change what your entire unit has on basic weapons. And then you have various rules that they have and all the keywords. So if you're ever curious on what something does, right? Like if you don't know what rapid fire does, you can go down and boom. It is very helpful. When looking at a unit, so let's just add Dominus because he can have it. So when looking at a character model, you'll have your selector button to tell if it's the warlord or not. Then you will have, here's your enhancements. You can see what they do by clicking on the eye once again. And then you'll have the various things, what they can connect to, all of the words. Yeah, you can change weapons like this, just clicking on them. Some of them are a little wacky, like if we look at, it's a bit of a pain, but yeah, so you go through this, making sure you have, so yeah, first thing you need to make sure is you have your combat patrol in there. So for AdMech, it is Tech Priest Engine Seer, Secretary Rangers, and Cataphront Destroyers, and an Honor Gradoon Crawler. So, so yeah, make sure you have this, and then fill out the remaining points in your list with... Oh, I don't need that. That's extra. And then you get to fill out the remaining points in your list with whatever you want. If I will be here to give you guys advice. Oh, one more thing. One thing that New Recruit doesn't actually show you is the stratagems that you can use with your faction. The site I use for that is 39k. And then this is a lot. You can just type in your like specific things. Like if you wanted a very specific unit, like if you wanted to look up, I don't know, Battle Sisters, right? You could look it up, and then you have all of their things, right? This is much more like how the Warhammer app formats it. Then their weapons and all that fun stuff, right? But you can also go to your faction, like Avmech. You can click on the sub-faction or detachment, and then you have your stratagems, right? These are also very important for when considering building your army list. So I think that's everything. Yeah. Any questions?
What is the World Eaters?
That's
Sounds
Nick's.
monster-like.
That's Nick's faction. Okay, so I'll end the recording.